Case file. Night dive. Night diving is a different world. The reef comes alive after dark. Octopi hunting, lobsters emerging from their holes, bioluminescent plankton sparkling in your light beam. It's magical. It's also when you're most vulnerable. We were doing a night dive off Grand Cayman, a group of 8 divers exploring a shallow reef at about 40 feet. The boat was anchored above us, its lights visible from below, a beacon showing us the way home. My wife, Jennifer, was dive master. She'd done this dive 100 times, knew every coral formation, every cleaning station, every spot where the octopi liked to hide. We'd been down about 35 minutes when I heard it. A sound that doesn't belong underwater. The high-pitched whine of an engine getting closer. Too close. I looked up. Through the darkness and the 40 feet of water between me and the surface, I could see lights. Not our boat's lights. Different lights. Moving fast. The other boat hit our anchor line at speed. I saw the propeller churn through the water directly above us. Saw the anchor line go taut and then snap. Our boat lurched, pulled sideways by the collision. And then I saw something else falling through the water. Dark shapes, tumbling down through the darkness. One of them was Jennifer. She'd been on the boat, waiting for us at the surface between dive groups. The collision had thrown her overboard, directly into the path of the other boat's propeller. By the time she reached our depth, I could see the damage. Her leg. God, her leg. I don't want to describe it. Can't describe it. Just know that the water around her was clouding dark, and I could see things that should have been inside her body. I grabbed her, signaled the others. Emergency ascent. We had to get her to the surface. Had to get her help. She was conscious, screaming into her regulator, eyes wide with shock and pain. We got her up, broke the surface, and that's when I saw them. Fins, cutting through the water, circling. The blood had drawn them. Reef sharks. Probably, maybe a bull shark or two. In the darkness, with just our dive lights, I couldn't tell. I just knew they were there, getting closer, drawn by the scent of Jennifer's blood spreading through the water. Our boat was drifting. The captain trying to restart the engine, shouting into his radio for help. The other boat had fled, didn't even stop to see what they'd hit. 7 of us were in the water with Jennifer, trying to keep her afloat, trying to stop the bleeding, trying to stay calm while sharks circled in the darkness around us. One of the divers, a guy named Tom, started swimming. Just struck out for shore, panic swimming, kicking and splashing. The worst thing you can do. The sharks followed him. I saw a fin cut between him and our group, tracking his movement. The captain got the engine started. We hauled Jennifer onto the dive platform, all of us scrambling up the ladder, kicking away from the water. Tom was still out there swimming, and we were screaming at him to come back, to get to the boat. He did. Barely. A shark passed under him close enough that he felt it brush his leg, he said later. Jennifer survived. Emergency surgery on Grand Cayman. Airlift to Miami. Months of rehabilitation. She lost her leg below the knee. The other boat was never found. Tourists in a rental probably, who fled the scene and returned the boat the next day with damage they claimed happened at the dock. I don't night dive anymore. Can't do it. Every time I think about descending into that darkness, I remember looking up and seeing the propeller churning through the water, seeing my wife falling, bleeding, dying, seeing those fins circling in the darkness, drawn by blood, waiting. The ocean doesn't care about your plans, doesn't care about your experience or your safety protocols. And at night, when you can't see what's coming, when you're lit up like a beacon in the darkness, you're not a diver anymore, you're bait. Case file, Barracuda. I was spearfishing in the Keys, working a reef in about 30 feet of water. Clear day, good visibility, plenty of fish. I'd already gotten a couple of hogfish and was looking for one more before calling it a day. That's when the barracuda showed up. They're common in Florida waters. You see them all the time. Long, silvery fish with underslung jaws full of teeth, like broken glass. Most of them ignore divers. They're curious sometimes, will follow you around. But they're not aggressive. Not usually. This one was different. It appeared out of nowhere, materialized from the blue like it had been watching me. 6 feet long, maybe longer, thick as my thigh. And it came straight at me, fast, stopping inches from my mask. So close I could see every tooth in its jaw. So close I could see my reflection in its eye. The eye is what I remember most. It was huge, unblinking, and it rotated in its socket to look at me, to judge me, to calculate whether I was prey or threat or just an obstacle. The barracuda's jaws were slightly open. I could see the rows of teeth, needle sharp, designed to shear through flesh and bone. Its body was perfectly still, suspended in the water, but I could feel the tension in it. The coil potential for explosive speed. I didn't move, didn't breathe. My spear gun was in my hand, but the barracuda was inside the range where I could effectively use it. If I tried to aim, tried to bring the gun to bear, the fish would be on me before I could fire. We stayed like that for what felt like an eternity. Me frozen, the barracuda staring, its eye rotating, its jaws working slightly like it was tasting the water, tasting me. Then it did something that made my blood freeze. It opened its jaws wider. Not attacking, just opening, showing me the teeth. All of them. Rows and rows of backward curving fangs that would shred anything they caught. I've read about barracuda attacks. They're rare, but they happen. Usually cases of mistaken identity. The fish sees something shiny, thinks it's a smaller fish, strikes before realizing its mistake. But this wasn't mistaken identity. This was a territorial display, a warning. This was the barracuda's reef, and I was an intruder. The fish held its position for another few seconds, jaws wide, eye locked on mine. Then, slowly, it closed its mouth, rotated its eye forward, and vanished. 1 second it was there, the next it was gone, disappeared into the blue so fast I couldn't track its movement. I surfaced immediately, didn't finish the dive, didn't look for that last hogfish, just got on the boat and tried to stop shaking. The captain laughed when I told him. Said barracuda do that sometimes. Get territorial, try to intimidate divers. It's all show, he said. They don't actually attack, mostly. But I've thought about that encounter a lot over the years. About how close those teeth were to my face. About that eye, rotating to look at me, calculating. About the deliberate opening of the jaws, the display of weaponry. The barracuda was deciding whether to attack. I'm sure of it. It was weighing the options, measuring the risk, deciding if I was worth the effort. And for whatever reason, maybe I was too big, maybe I looked wrong, maybe it just wasn't hungry enough. It decided I wasn't, but it could have. That's what keeps me up sometimes. In that moment, with that fish inches from my face, my life was entirely in its control. If it had decided differently, if some calculation in its primitive brain had tipped the other way, those jaws would have closed on my face before I could react. I still dive, still spearfish, but I'm more careful now about what I wear, what shines, what might catch a predator's attention. And when I see barracuda on the reef, I give them space. Respect their territory. Remember that I'm a guest in their world, and guests can be asked to leave or removed. Case file: the bends. The dive was perfect. 70 feet, a beautiful wall covered in soft corals and sponges, water temperature in the high 70s. My buddy and I spent 45 minutes exploring, taking photos, enjoying one of those dives where everything just works. We did our safety stop, 3 minutes at 15 feet, just like we were supposed to. Ascended slowly, broke the surface, and climbed back on the boat. I felt great, energized, ready for the next dive. 20 minutes later, my elbow started hurting. It was a strange pain, deep, aching, like something was wrong inside the joint. I flexed my arm, rotated it, trying to work out what I thought was a cramp. The pain got worse. Then came the dizziness. The boat tilted under my feet. The horizon spun. I sat down hard, grabbed the rail, tried to focus. My buddy was asking if I was okay, but his voice sounded distant, muffled, like he was talking through water. The captain knew immediately. "How deep?" he asked. I told him. 70 feet. "How long?" 45 minutes. He grabbed his dive computer, checked the tables. We'd been right at the no decompression limit, right at the edge. And apparently, we'd gone over. Decompression sickness, the bends, nitrogen bubbles forming in my bloodstream, my tissues, my joints. The elbow pain was nitrogen in the joint capsule. The dizziness was nitrogen affecting my inner ear, maybe my brain. The captain called the Coast Guard, gave them our position, told them we needed an emergency airlift to the nearest hyperbaric chamber. Then he put me on oxygen, high flow, trying to get as much nitrogen out of my system as possible. The pain got worse, spread from my elbow to my shoulder, my neck. Every movement sent sharp, stabbing agony through my joints. I couldn't stand, could barely sit. My vision was blurring, doubling. I was nauseated, terrified I was going to vomit and choke on it. The helicopter arrived 30 minutes later. Longest 30 minutes of my life. They loaded me on a stretcher, hooked me up to more oxygen, flew me to a hospital with a hyperbaric chamber. I remember the flight being incredibly loud, the vibration making the joint pain worse, the paramedic telling me to stay calm, that we were almost there. The chamber was small, barely big enough for me and one attendant. They sealed us in, started increasing the pressure. It felt like descending again, like being pushed back underwater. My ears popped. The pain intensified for a few minutes, then, slowly, gradually, started to ease. I was in that chamber for 8 hours. 8 hours of breathing pure oxygen under pressure, allowing the nitrogen bubbles to dissolve back into my bloodstream, get filtered out by my lungs. 8 hours of lying still, watching the pressure gauge, listening to the hiss of the oxygen feed. When they finally let me out, the pain was gone. The dizziness was gone. I felt weak, exhausted, but alive. The doctor told me I was lucky, caught it early, got treatment fast. Another hour, maybe 2, and the damage might have been permanent. Paralysis, brain damage, death. I'd done everything right, followed the tables, done my safety stop. ascended slowly, and still, I got bent. Because I'm tall, the doctor explained. Longer limbs mean more tissue for nitrogen to saturate. Because I was a little dehydrated. Because I'd flown 2 days before and there was still residual nitrogen in my system. Because a dozen small factors had combined to push me over the edge into decompression sickness. I still dive, but I'm more conservative now. Stay well within the no decompression limits. Do longer safety stops. Stay hydrated. Don't fly for at least 24 hours after diving. Take every precaution I can, because the bends can happen to anyone. Even if you do everything right, even if you follow all the rules. Your body doesn't care about dive tables or safety margins. It just cares about physics. And sometimes, physics decides you've pushed too hard. That 8 hours in the chamber taught me something. Diving is a borrowed privilege. We're not meant to be underwater, breathing compressed gas, subjecting our bodies to pressure they weren't designed for. Every dive is a negotiation with physics, and sometimes physics says no. I just got lucky that day. Lucky the captain knew what to look for. Lucky the helicopter was close. Lucky the chamber was available. Next time, I might not be so lucky. And there's always a next time if you keep diving long enough. Case file. The necklace. We were diving off the coast of Cozumel. Shallow reef, maybe 25 feet. My girlfriend Sarah was wearing a gold necklace, a gift from her grandmother, delicate chain with a small pendant. I told her to take it off before the dive. That jewelry can attract fish, but she'd refused. It was her good luck charm. She never took it off. We were about 30 minutes into the dive when I noticed the barracuda. It was hanging back, maybe 20 feet away, watching us. Big fish, 5 feet long, silver body catching the sunlight filtering through the water. Just watching, following, not threatening, just there. Sarah didn't notice it. She was focused on a moray eel poking its head out of a crevice, trying to get a photo. I kept an eye on the barracuda, but it maintained its distance. Curious, I thought. Just a curious fish. Then Sarah turned, and the sunlight caught her necklace. The gold flashed, brilliant and bright, like a signal flare in the water. The barracuda's behavior changed instantly. It went from lazy following to focused attention. Its body stiffened, its jaws opened slightly, and then it started moving toward us. Slow at first, then faster. I grabbed Sarah's arm, pointed at the fish. She looked, saw it coming, and I watched her eyes go wide behind her mask. The barracuda was close now, maybe 10 feet away, and it was staring at her necklace, at the gold pendant catching the light with every movement she made. The fish stopped about 3 feet away, close enough that we could see every detail, the rows of teeth, the scales, the unblinking eye. It was staring at the necklace. Its jaws were working, opening and closing, like it was preparing to strike. Sarah reached for the clasp, trying to take the necklace off, but her hands were shaking, and the clasp was small, and the barracuda was right there, teeth bared, watching the gold flash and shimmer. I positioned myself between Sarah and the fish, spread my arms wide, trying to make myself look bigger, trying to break its focus on the necklace. The barracuda's eye rotated to look at me, then back to Sarah, then to me again. It was calculating. I could see it, weighing whether the shiny object was worth going through me to get. Sarah got the clasp open. The necklace came off in her hand. She let it go, and we watched it fall, tumbling through the water. gold flashing all the way down until it settled on the sand 25 feet below. The barracuda watched it fall, looked at Sarah, looked at me, then turned and glided away, back into the blue, like nothing had happened. We surfaced immediately. On the boat, Sarah was crying, not from fear, from loss. That necklace had been her grandmother's, was one of the few things she had left from her, and now it was sitting on the ocean floor, 25 feet down, probably already half buried in sand. We went back down, spent another 30 minutes searching the area where we thought it had fallen. Never found it. The sand was disturbed. The current had probably moved it. Or maybe the barracuda had come back and investigated, knocked it somewhere else. It was gone. The dive operator later told us we did the right thing. Barracuda are attracted to shiny objects, fishing lures, jewelry, dive lights. They mistake them for the flash of small fish and strike. Usually they realize their mistake and back off, but not always. People have been bitten, lost fingers, had chunks taken out of their hands or arms. That barracuda with its teeth bared, staring at Sarah's necklace, it was preparing to strike. If she hadn't gotten it off, if she'd panicked or frozen, those teeth would have gone for the pendant. And Sarah's neck was right there, just behind it. She never wore jewelry diving again, neither do I. Nothing shiny, nothing reflective, nothing that might catch a predator's attention and make it think we're prey. Because that's what we are in the water. We're not the top of the food chain. We're just soft, slow-moving targets with shiny objects attached to us, sending signals we don't understand to predators that are faster, stronger, and better adapted than we'll ever be. The ocean is beautiful, but it's also full of things that see beauty differently than we do. To us, gold is precious, valuable, sentimental. To a barracuda, it's just the flash of something small and edible, something to chase, something to bite. Case file left behind. We were a dive club from Perth, 15 teenagers and 2 instructors, doing a day trip to a reef about 2 kilometers offshore. Perfect conditions, calm seas, clear water. We'd done 2 dives already, and 5 of us wanted to do 1 more before heading back. The instructor said fine, but make it quick, 30 minutes max. We descended to about 50 feet, explored the reef, did our safety stop, and surfaced right where we were supposed to, right next to the dive flag we'd left floating. The boat was gone. At first, we thought it had just drifted a little, moved with the current. We started swimming in the direction we thought it had gone, calling out, waving our arms. 5 of us, me, my best friend Danny, 2 guys named Chris and Mike, and a girl named Emma who was the youngest in the group at 15. We swam for 10 minutes. 15. No boat. We couldn't see the shore. 2 kilometers is too far when you're at water level. Couldn't see any other boats. Just endless ocean in every direction. That's when we realized they'd left without us, counted wrong, or assumed we'd already gotten on board and left. 5 teenagers floating in open water, 2 kilometers from shore, with no boat coming back. Emma started crying, hyperventilating. Danny was trying to calm her down, but I could see the panic in his eyes too. We were in trouble, real trouble. Chris suggested we swim for shore. 2 kilometers. We could do it, he said. We were all strong swimmers, all had fins, all had our wetsuits for buoyancy. We could make it. Mike pointed out that 2 kilometers is a long swim, that we didn't know the current, didn't know if we'd be swimming against it. that we'd be exhausted by the time we got there, if we got there. We voted 3 for swimming, 2 for staying put and hoping the boat came back. Swimming won. We started out strong, kept together, kept a steady pace. Emma was struggling. She was the smallest, the youngest, getting tired fast. Danny and I took turns pulling her along, letting her hold on to our BCD straps while she kicked. After 30 minutes we stopped to rest. The shore didn't look any closer. We were making progress maybe, but it was slow. The current was against us. Emma was exhausted, barely kicking anymore. That's when we saw the fin. It was 100 yards away, cutting through the water parallel to us. Big fin. Shark, definitely. We couldn't tell what kind. We kept swimming, stayed together, tried not to splash, not to look like struggling prey. The fin disappeared, came back, disappeared again. An hour into the swim, Emma couldn't go any further. She was dead weight, just hanging on to Danny's BCD, not kicking at all. Danny was exhausted too, so was I. But the shore was closer now, maybe 1 kilometer away, maybe less. We could see the beach, see buildings, see people. Danny and I made a decision. We'd tow Emma between us. Chris and Mike would swim ahead, get to shore, send help back. We'd keep moving, slow but steady, and hope we all made it. Chris and Mike took off. We watched them swim away, getting smaller, eventually disappearing in the chop. Then it was just Danny, me, and Emma, swimming as best we could. Emma between us, barely conscious, mumbling about being tired, wanting to stop. We didn't let her stop, didn't let her give up. We pulled her, pushed her, kept her head above water when she tried to let go and sink. It took another hour, longest hour of my life. My arms were screaming, my legs were cramping. I was swallowing water with every breath. But the shore kept getting closer, closer. I could see individual people on the beach now, could hear the waves breaking on the sand. When my feet finally touched the bottom, I wanted to cry. Danny did cry. We dragged Emma into the shallows and collapsed on the beach. All 3 of us coughing and shaking, and unable to believe we'd made it. Chris and Mike were already there. They'd gotten to shore 20 minutes earlier, called emergency services who were on their way. And our boat, our goddamn boat, was pulled up on the beach 100 yards down. They'd realized we were missing, had come back to look for us, found nothing at the dive site, assumed we'd made for shore. They'd been searching the wrong stretch of beach. If we hadn't swum exactly where we did, if the current had taken us a different direction, they might never have found us. Emma was hospitalized for exhaustion and dehydration. Danny and I were okay physically, but messed up mentally. I had nightmares for months about being left behind, about seeing that fin in the water, about Emma giving up and us not being able to save her. The dive club shut down after that. Lawsuits, insurance claims, investigations. The instructors lost their certifications. But none of that mattered to me. What mattered was that we survived. Danny and I dragged a 15-year-old girl 2 kilometers through open ocean, with sharks in the water and no guarantee we'd make it, and we survived. I don't dive from boats anymore. Can't do it. Every time I'm on one, I count heads obsessively, make sure everyone is accounted for, make sure no one gets left behind. Because being left behind in the ocean is a special kind of terror. It's abandonment and exposure, and the certainty that you're going to die, all at once. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you live through it anyway. Case file: The Turtle. I was teaching English in the Philippines, small town on Mindanao, and diving was one of the few ways to escape the heat and the monotony. A group of us would go out every few weeks, hit the local reefs, see the turtles and the coral, and the incredible marine life. This was my last trip before heading home. End of my contract, end of my time in the Philippines. One last night dive to cap off 2 years of weekend diving in some of the most beautiful water in the world. We went to a site known for turtles. Green sea turtles, mostly. Big ones that would let you swim alongside them if you were respectful. The dive was perfect. Clear water, bioluminescent plankton sparkling in our lights. A turtle grazing on the reef that let us watch for 10 minutes before slowly paddling away. We were surfacing, doing our safety stop at 15 feet, when I saw something in my light beam. Something big, floating, drifting with the current. It was the turtle. The same one we'd just been watching. But something was wrong with it. It was moving strangely, tumbling in the water, not swimming. I swam closer, shined my light on it. The turtle had been cut in half. Not torn, not bitten, cut, cleanly. Like someone had taken a knife and sliced it right through the middle. The front half, head, front flippers, part of the shell, was drifting one direction. The back half was somewhere below us, probably already sinking. The cut was so clean I could see inside, could see organs, spine, the internal structure of the shell. And there was surprisingly little blood. The water wasn't clouded, it was just clean, surgical. My dive buddy saw it too. She made a noise into her regulator, a sound of horror and disbelief. We looked at each other, looked at the turtle, looked down into the darkness below us. Shark. Had to be. A big shark. Moving fast, jaws open. The turtle had been in the wrong place at the wrong time, and the shark had cut right through it. Maybe a tiger shark, maybe a bull shark. Something big enough and powerful enough to shear through a turtle's shell like it was cardboard. We surfaced fast, faster than we should have, broke into the air and swam for the boat, not caring about safety stops or slow ascents, just needing to get out of the water, away from whatever had done that. On the boat, we told the dive master. He nodded, unsurprised. Sharks are common here, he said, especially at night. We'd been lucky. The shark had been hunting, found a turtle, struck. If we'd been closer, if we'd been in its path. He didn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. I've thought about a turtle a lot, about how we'd just been swimming with it, watching it graze peacefully on the reef, about how it was alive and healthy and going about its business. And then, in an instant, it wasn't. Killed so fast and so cleanly that there wasn't even a struggle. That's what gets me. The speed, the efficiency. The turtle never had a chance, never knew what hit it. 1 second it was swimming, the next it was in 2 pieces, drifting apart in the current. That was supposed to be my last dive, my last happy memory of the Philippines and the ocean and the beautiful reefs I had spent 2 years exploring. Instead, it's the memory of a turtle cut in half, of swimming above a killing ground in the darkness, completely unaware that something enormous was hunting below us. I did dive again eventually. Took a few years off, but I came back to it. But I never did another night dive. Can't do it. Can't descend into that darkness, turn on my light and not think about what's beyond the beam. What's watching from the black water, deciding whether I'm prey or not. The ocean at night belongs to predators. We're just visitors. And sometimes Being a visitor in the wrong place at the wrong time is all it takes. Case file. The grouper. Spearfishing off the Florida Keys, I'd had a good day. 4 nice-sized hogfish on my stringer, maybe 20 pounds of fish total. I was getting ready to call it, head back to the boat, when I saw one more. A big one, hovering near a coral head at about 60 feet. I descended, lined up the shot, fired. Clean hit, right through the head. The fish kicked once and went still. I swam down to retrieve it, added it to my stringer with the others. 5 fish. Now, a great day. I started ascending, and that's when I felt the tug. Something had grabbed my stringer. I looked down and saw it. A Goliath grouper, easily 6 feet long, 400 pounds, maybe more. Its mouth was open, and my stringer was inside it. All 5 of my fish were in its mouth. I pulled on the stringer. The grouper didn't budge, just hung there in the water, my fish in its jaws, looking at me with those huge, expressionless eyes. Goliath groupers are protected. You can't kill them, can't even remove them from the water if you catch them by accident. And they know they're protected. I swear they do. They're bold around divers, curious, will approach close enough to touch. But this one wasn't being curious. It was stealing. I pulled harder on the stringer. The grouper started swimming backward, pulling me with it. I was 60 feet down, being towed by a fish that outweighed me by 200 pounds. I let go of the stringer. The grouper stopped swimming, hovered there, and then, slowly, deliberately, it closed its mouth. I heard the sound even underwater, a grinding, crunching noise, bones breaking, flesh compressing. 5 fish, 20 pounds of meat and bone, crushed in one bite. Then the grouper's throat worked, one big swallow, and the fish were gone. All of them disappeared into the grouper's gullet, stringer and all. I watched my stringer, a metal chain with clips, vanish into the fish's mouth. Watched the grouper swallow it like it was nothing. The grouper looked at me, opened its mouth again, like it was asking if I had more. Then it turned and swam away, disappearing into a crevice in the reef. I surfaced. On the boat, I told the captain what happened. He laughed. Said Goliath groupers do that all the time. They follow spearfishers around, wait until you've got fish on your stringer, then steal them. Smart fish. Opportunistic. Why hunt when you can let the dumb humans do it for you? But here's what bothered me. The size of that grouper's mouth. When it opened to take my fish, I could see inside. Could see the cavernous space where my fish disappeared. Could see the throat, wide and dark, leading down to a stomach big enough to hold 20 pounds of fish and a metal stringer without any trouble. A human torso would fit in that mouth, easily. If a Goliath grouper wanted to, if it got aggressive or territorial, it could swallow a person's head and shoulders in one bite. They don't, of course. They're not aggressive. They eat fish, crustaceans, even small sharks, but not people, probably. But I've thought about it. About that moment when the grouper closed its mouth and swallowed my entire stringer in one gulp. About the power in its jaws, the capacity of its stomach. About the fact that to that fish, 20 pounds of meat was a snack, a small meal. I still spearfish, but I'm more careful now about where I clip my stringer. Keep it close to my body, not trailing behind where something can grab it. And when I see Goliath groupers on the reef, I give them space, respect, acknowledgement that they're bigger, stronger, and in their element. Because that's what diving teaches you, eventually. That you're not the top predator, not even close. You're just another source of food, moving slowly through someone else's territory. And if you're lucky, they decide you're not worth eating. Case file: the skull. The dive site was a disaster. Visibility was maybe 5 feet. The water was murky and cold, and the current was pushing silt everywhere. We should have called it, gone somewhere else, but we'd driven 3 hours to get there and paid for the boat, so we went down anyway. I was doing a search pattern along the bottom, about 70 feet down, when I saw something in the silt. Something white. I brushed away the sediment and found a bottle. Prescription bottle, plastic. The label long since degraded, but the bottle itself intact. I picked it up, curious, turned it over in my hand. There was still something inside. Pills maybe, or what was left of them. The bottle had to be old, decades old, to be that degraded but still sealed. I was about to bag it, bring it up to look at more closely, when I saw the next object. Another piece of white, half buried in the silt about 2 feet from where I found the bottle. I brushed away the sediment. It was a bone, human bone. Femur, I thought, though I'm not a doctor. Too big to be an animal, wrong shape. Definitely human. I stopped moving. My heart was pounding. I looked around, suddenly hyper-aware of the murky water, the limited visibility, the fact that I was alone on the bottom with what was clearly a human bone. I should have surfaced, should have marked the location and called the authorities. But I kept looking, kept brushing away silt, found more bones, ribs, vertebrae, an arm bone, still articulated at the elbow, and then the skull. It was partially buried, tilted at an angle, eye sockets staring up at me through the murk. The jaw was missing. Some of the teeth were still in the maxilla, dark and stained. The skull was damaged on one side, a crack running from the temple to the base. I kicked backward, dropped my light, grabbed it and pointed it at the skull, and in the beam I could see more bones. A whole skeleton, scattered across the lake bottom, partially buried, gradually being revealed by whatever current or disturbance had shifted the silt. I surfaced fast, too fast, but I didn't care. Got to the boat and told the captain. He called the police. We marked the location with GPS and they told us to leave. Crime scene, they said. Possible homicide. We weren't to dive there again, weren't to touch anything else, weren't to talk about what we found. The story made local news a few weeks later. Human remains found in the lake, estimated to have been there for 20 to 30 years. The prescription bottle I had found was the key. They traced it to a pharmacy, then to a patient, then to a missing person case from 1992. A woman who disappeared, presumed drowned, now confirmed dead, found 70 feet down in a murky lake by a diver who was just looking for something interesting to photograph. I never learned if it was an accident or murder. The police wouldn't say. But that crack in the skull, that bothered me. Still bothers me. Skulls don't crack like that from drowning. They crack from impacts, from blunt force trauma. I think about her sometimes, about how she ended up at the bottom of that lake, bones scattered, slowly being buried by silt and sediment. About the prescription bottle I found first, just 2 feet from her femur, like she'd been holding it when she went down. About whether she fell, or was pushed, or chose to go. I don't dive that lake anymore. Can't do it. Every time I'm in murky water, brushing away silt, looking for something to photograph or collect. I think about what else might be down there. What other secrets are buried in the sediment, waiting to be found? The lakes and oceans are full of people who disappeared, who were lost, or hidden, or forgot they mattered to anyone. And sometimes, by accident, we find them, disturb their resting places, bring them back into the light. I just wish I'd left that prescription bottle alone. Case file: The Panicked Diver. We were on a charter boat, about 30 divers doing a 2-tank trip to a popular reef. First dive went fine. Second dive, we were all gearing up when one guy, I didn't know his name, mid-40s maybe, started acting strange. He was breathing hard, sweating, staring at the water like it was going to attack him. The dive master asked if he was okay, and the guy nodded, said he was fine, just a little nervous. First dive in a while. We descended as a group, following the dive master down to about 60 feet. The nervous guy was right behind us, staying close. Too close. He kept bumping into people, kicking them with his fins, grabbing at their BCDs. The dive master signaled him to slow down, give space. The guy nodded, backed off. Then, about 15 minutes into the dive, he just descended. Not slowly, not deliberately. He just dropped, fins kicking, arms reaching down, like he was swimming for the bottom as hard as he could. We watched him fall past us, dropping through 70 feet, 80, 90. The dive master went after him, kicking hard to catch up. I followed, so did a few others. We descended fast, watching this guy drop into the blue below us, getting smaller, heading for the bottom at 120 feet. The dive master caught him at 110, grabbed his BCD, hit the inflator to add air, slow his descent. The guy fought him, actually fought, thrashing and kicking, trying to push the dive master away, trying to keep descending. 2 more divers grabbed him, held him. The guy's eyes were wide behind his mask, not focused, not seeing us. He was somewhere else, in his head, not processing what was happening. We started bringing him up. He fought the whole way. At 80 feet, the dive master pulled the guy's regulator out and shoved it back in his mouth. He'd been breathing, but erratically, gasping. At 60 feet, the guy went limp, just stopped fighting, hung there in the water while we towed him up. We got him to the surface, got him on the boat. He was breathing but not responding, eyes open but not seeing. The captain called the Coast Guard, reported a diving emergency, possible nitrogen narcosis or decompression sickness. The helicopter took him to a hospital. We heard later he was okay physically, no injuries, no permanent damage, but mentally, something had broken. Panic attack, the doctors said. Severe disorienting panic that made him lose all sense of awareness. He'd forgotten where he was, what he was doing. All he knew was he needed to get away, and his brain decided away meant down. If we hadn't gone after him, if the dive master hadn't caught him, he would have kept descending. Past 120 feet, past 150, until his air ran out or the pressure knocked him unconscious, or both. We would have found his body on the bottom if we found it at all. The dive master said it happens sometimes. Panic underwater triggers a drowning response, and sometimes that response is to swim down instead of up. The brain stops thinking rationally, stops processing reality, and just reacts. Swimming down toward drowning, swimming away from air and light and life. It doesn't make sense. But panic doesn't make sense. I've thought about that diver a lot. About the look in his eyes when we grabbed him. About how he fought us. Fought the people trying to save his life. About how close he came to dying because his brain decided the bottom was safer than the surface. I wonder if he still dives. If he ever went back in the water after that. If he could. I wonder if I could. If it had been me. If I'd woken up in a hospital and been told I'd tried to drown myself, tried to swim to the bottom, fought the people who saved me. Panic is the diver's worst enemy, worse than equipment failure, worse than marine life, worse than getting lost or running out of air. Because panic takes your brain offline, makes you do things that kill you, and you don't even realize it's happening. That diver was lucky. We were there. We followed him down. We brought him back. But luck runs out eventually, and panic doesn't care about luck. Case file: the screaming fish. I was working on a commercial fishing vessel off the coast of Alaska. Grueling work, long hours, but the pay was good, and I needed the money. We were trawling for cod, hauling in nets every few hours, sorting the catch, dumping the bycatch. Most of what we caught was ordinary. Cod, obviously, some halibut, rockfish, the occasional crab or octopus tangled in the net. You get used to it. The smell, the slime, the dying fish flopping on deck. It's just work. Then we hauled in something that wasn't ordinary. The net came up heavy, like we'd snagged something big. The winch strained, the cables creaked. When the net finally broke the surface, water pouring through the mesh, we could see something thrashing inside. Something big. We got the net on deck and started sorting. Most of the catch was normal, cod mostly, a few halibut. But at the bottom of the net, tangled in the mesh, was a fish I'd never seen before. It was maybe 4 feet long, thick-bodied, with scales that looked almost iridescent. The head was wrong, too large, too rounded, and the face. God, the face. It looked human. Not exactly human, but close enough to make your skin crawl. The eyes were positioned like a person's eyes, forward-facing, not on the sides of the head. The mouth was wide and lipless, full of small, flat teeth. And the expression... I know fish don't have expressions, but this thing looked angry, enraged. It was making noise. Not the usual fish sounds, not flopping and gasping. This was different. High-pitched, rhythmic, almost like screaming. We all stopped working, just stood there, staring at this thing, listening to it scream. One of the crew, a guy who'd been fishing for 20 years, said he'd never seen anything like it. None of us had. The captain came out to look, took one glance at the fish, and his face went white. He told us to get it off the deck, immediately. Throw it back, don't touch it, don't look at it, just get rid of it. But none of us wanted to touch it. The thing was still screaming, thrashing in the net, its human-like eyes rolling in its head. One of the crew grabbed a gaff, tried to hook it, drag it to the rail. The fish went insane, thrashing harder, screaming louder, its mouth opening and closing like it was trying to bite. I don't know what possessed me. Rage maybe, fear, disgust. I grabbed a fish bat, a heavy club we used to kill fish quickly, and I hit it. Hit it hard, right on the head. The screaming stopped. The thrashing stopped. The fish went limp. We threw it overboard, watched it sink, disappearing into the dark water. Nobody spoke. We just went back to work, sorting the rest of the catch, trying to forget what we'd seen. But I couldn't forget. Still can't. That face, those eyes, the way it screamed, like it was begging or cursing or warning us. The way it looked at me when I raised the bat, like it knew what was coming, like it understood. I've researched it since then, tried to find what species it might have been. Some kind of deep-sea fish maybe, brought up from depths it didn't belong. But nothing matches. Nothing even comes close. The ocean is full of things we haven't discovered. Species that live too deep, or too remote, or too rare to be catalogued. Things that evolution shaped in ways we can't predict or understand. That fish, I think it was one of those things. Something that shouldn't exist, shouldn't be possible, but does anyway. Something that lives in the deep, in the dark, where the pressure and the cold create life forms that don't follow the rules we know. I left commercial fishing after that season. Couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't haul nets wondering what might be inside. Couldn't sort catches knowing that something with a human face might be looking back at me. I still think about it sometimes. About the way it screamed. About its eyes. Watching me. Knowing. About the sound it made when the bat connected. The way it went silent. I killed something that day. I don't know what. But it looked at me like a person and screamed like a person. And I killed it anyway. And that's something I'll carry for the rest of my life.